What's up, everybody? I'm James.
I am JP.
I'm Gary Fullman. If you were tuning into our last episode, you understood that. But I'm Ryan. I had to throw that curveball at them.
Welcome to CineNerds.
Hell yeah.
This is the artist formerly known as Ryan.
Yes, and I've only had a few sips of the Ghost Energy
This
drink,
is
so
why he don't have them.
my stupidity will kick in further as we go.
Oh, God. This is how we started.
What movie do we pick today?
Today, I picked The Imitation Game. I tend, the older I'm getting, to enjoy seeing movies, documentaries, things that are real, things that have happened. They may be adaptations of it. They may be little twists and turns.
Approach, yeah.
But the fact that this is at least a period, it says here, period biographical thriller film, which is actually a really good way of putting it, in my opinion.
I don't know about thriller, but
Well,
agree. Yeah.
I mean, because you're trying to stop.
I can understand it. Yeah.
I mean, not a thriller in the sense of what we're used to, but
Yeah.
this was the first time, and I don't know if he's done stuff before. I didn't look, but this was the first time I heard the name Benedict Cumberbatch.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
You said it correctly, too, because most people butcher that name. So
To what?
Are you looking at me?
I don't know.
Because that's how I always say it.
You're good. No.
yeah.
I was just looking back and forth in general.
Well, then you're safe.
But-
Calm your ass.
Jeez,
Well, I'm
wow.
just saying.
That's
I'm just
cool, you're
saying.
tense, bro.
Every time I turn around,
You talking to me?
No,
every time I
I'm-
turn around, it's how'd you say that? How'd you say that?
Well, I mean, in his defense, we don't know what you're saying half the time.
That's
I actually had a conversation yesterday with somebody who we were talking about, like, the North Carolina Southern accent, and how it's funny how living in Florida, I never hear it anywhere. Now, granted, most people are transplants, and I get that, but you don't. I kind of feel like it's not a Southern accent; it's a mountain accent. Because North Carolina is not super south.
But
North Carolina is more right in the middle
but if
of
you,
up and down.
But if you go to Alabama, they
And
I was gonna
we
say,
did talk about that too, but it's
You're
just,
3 states away from Gambit, so you're good.
But anyway,
He does not understand that reference.
Speaking of, wait, I've got to stop right there.
Oh, no.
we're doing
I'm not
this
caught up.
again.
I'm not caught up. Don't do it to me.
When you get caught up on episode 5,
Then you can make a phone
X-Men
call.
97 is what he's talking about.
you need to call me.
Yes, sir.
We need to talk.
Okay.
He don't talk on the phone.
He will.
I will.
He will.
What?
Did I answer when you called? When I was on the way
He
over?
didn't answer when I called you.
No,
fuck.
because you always want...
And I'm the one that got off the flight this morning. I was like, are we doing this today? What's happening?
JP understands that people have schedules and things. He doesn't want to talk forever. He wants to get it short and sweet and be there.
My
James
only
wants
reason
to,
was, are you almost there? Are you there? What time are you coming? Because you haven't responded to a text all morning.
Speaking of-
I had time to fly in, say I'm back. I'll be here at this time. Hey, I'm going to sleep a little longer. And crickets.
Hey, I didn't see your text. I'm sorry. But that aside, speaking of asking about when guys are coming, let's talk about Benedict Cumberbatch's character. Go ahead.
Wow. That escalated.
A little far on that one. Let that slide. I've never seen or heard of this guy before.
Really?
And
What?
before this movie, this movie came out in 2014. I never heard of him before this. No,
Well, a lot of his
he didn't do mainstream stuff.
a lot of his story was classified. A lot of that stuff didn't come out till the early 2000s about him. So,
I'm talking about Benedict Cumberbatch.
I thought
in
you
general.
was talking about
No.
Alan
I'm talking about
Turing.
Benedict Cumberbatch in general. I just never heard of
So,
him
so
okay.
let's rewind here.
as an actor.
Yeah.
So when, like, just watching this movie recently?
Like I'm
was the
saying
first
like
time-
when this movie came out. I saw the movie when it came out.
Oh, okay.
But this
All
is
right.
my first interaction of seeing him act.
See, mine was...
And I thought it was great.
Mine was Sherlock, and he is my Sherlock. He is my favorite Sherlock, and he always will be.
And the actor that played Moriarty in that Sherlock is
He's so
phenomenal
good,
too.
so good.
But
And you believe that he is psychotic.
yeah,
But my favorite thing with him, do you guys ever watch Jimmy Fallon?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember when Blake Shelton was on and they had to do the headphones and he had to say it? And he's like, Benedict Cumberbatch,
Yeah.
say his name. And he's like, you made that up. Like, he didn't even know, even Blake Shelton had no idea who he was. He's like, you're making this up. And it's fucking, I have to send it to you. It's fucking hilarious.
I think I've seen it. It sounds familiar.
But I also, and I'll be honest, because I'm not to answer another question that you just said, I did not know who Alan Turing was until this movie. Because I've never really dove into.
Well, and that's what I was saying.
The
Was
past.
his stuff was classified, and so even as a computer programmer, I went to college for computer programming. I didn't know a lot about him, and because everything that he contributed was deemed classified under MI6, so a lot of the information around him wasn't getting released until the late 90s, early 2000s.
Now, was this because they were trying to? But what were they hiding? Were they trying to hide the information?
It was
because they just thought they had something they couldn't get out.
If it was public, then Hitler and the Nazis would have found out that they were being, bamboozled. Essentially, that's how they were finding out their info.
Anything that's deemed classified is something like a 50-year waiting period before they can start declassifying.
Okay.
So
MI6 is a little different than CIA, but it's the same. Essentially,
yeah.
I also, it's funny you bring up Sherlock. Mark Strong was in this, and I love Mark Strong, but I loved him in the first Sherlock Holmes
with Robert Downey Jr.
And Jude Law. Yeah. Like I love those two movies. Those two movies are.
Well, I recommend. Actually, you have access to my Vudu.
Did he do? Was it a series or was it a
series?
movie?
But the way they did
How long is it?
The way they did it, there's 3 or 4 seasons. I can't remember how many seasons there are, but there's 3 or 4 seasons. But there's only like 3 episodes per season. But
so it's quick.
It's not real quick because the episodes are movie length.
Jesus.
So they're an hour and a half or so long, hour and 40 minutes each episode. But each episode is like a movie. So
do I want to watch this or do I want to watch Fallout next?
You're not going to like Fallout.
I want to watch it.
I don't know. I've not watched Fallout yet, so I don't have an opinion. But I would recommend watching Sherlock. If you want something new to watch, you'll love it. You will love it.
Just so you guys know, at some point down the road here, I've decided that, because we obviously just go over movies during these, if we're not going to do a series-based episode, I'm going to start doing some videos, put them up as reels of just opinions on some series, and you guys can chime in off those too. I don't know if you guys want to do those too. But...
I want to dive into some of that too. And actually, I've got a conversation I was going to have with y'all today regarding some things with that. So
okay, cool.
So we'll discuss them.
Yeah, I do want to broaden us a little bit.
But I will say when Acolyte comes out, you and I need to be doing specials.
I've got a few different specials in mind.
So,
but I digress. Let's get back into the movie here because we get off the rails here a little bit.
So I actually watched this again. I rewatched it with my mom because I haven't watched it since it came out, and that's why I picked it. Because I'm starting to pick movies that I want to watch again, but when I go to sit down and watch something, I'm like I can't remember. So I'm sort of making a list, and that's what I'm using this for.
So what was your watch again impression?
I liked it just as much. I loved it just as much as I did the first time. It actually made me do a little bit of thinking. Because as it starts, so for those of you who have not seen this movie or don't know anything about it, this is based in World War II, and they're trying to crack the Enigma code that is
it's the device the Nazis would use to communicate, but they change their coding every 24 hours.
So they got to try to break the code, and Alan Turing is just one of those guys that's too damn smart for his own good, to where he's a little awkward, a little off-putting to people, but he doesn't do it on purpose. It's just how his brain works.
He's kind of like Sheldon Cooper for people.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because we're watching this, and my mom goes, "Hey, hit pause," and I go, "What's that?" And she goes, "Who does this remind you of?"
Sheldon Cooper.
Mm-mm.
Oh,
my stepson Lawson.
Oh, okay.
Not as awkward, but he's so smart.
Yeah.
That there's easy things like when they said, "Hey, we're going to get a sandwich." Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want one? Well, you didn't ask. Like that's, and he's not even that bad, but we have those moments where I look at Lawson and I go, "Are you messing with me right now? Are you really not understanding what I'm saying?" This movie made my brain go, okay. It actually made me realize, like, I need to find a new way to communicate because it's not his fault and it's not my fault, but we need to find a better way to communicate so we can be on the same page. And I've been trying to do that with him since because of this movie.
Yeah.
So, for me, it was a good thing to help just in general life.
I'm going to pause here and get deep here to help you a little bit. So,
because you sat with Lawson.
Well, I did. And like I said, I enjoyed all of our conversation because I started throwing riddles at him, and he loved riddles, and he wanted more.
Yeah.
As many as I could give him, he wanted it. But the interesting thing for me with this movie, my initial impression too, was completely unexpected. Had no idea what I was going into. I just knew that Benedict is one of my favorite actors. He's amazing at what he does. Everything he's in is just, he is a solid actor. But to play somebody with autism and to play a homosexual in this one was so much. Just to give context here, my son also has some intricate little personality traits. He has
nuances.
He has autism and he's homosexual. So I don't know if I've discussed that before, but it's very humbling to have conversations with him because I find myself learning new things all the time, even at age 20. One of the things I learned recently, and I had to apologize to my son, and he thanked me for it, but I didn't understand that autistic people don't understand hierarchy. They don't understand what authority is. That doesn't translate to them like it does to us. They don't understand when they're given rules that they have to follow them, things like that. They just feel like everyone is an equal and they're on the same page. Had I known that with my son's upbringing, I would not have approached parenting the way that I did. And finding that out was a big moment where I went to him, hey, I'm sorry for not understanding that, and now I do. I'm going to try things a little differently. But that said, this movie really hit home as well with me because of that. And then also, like, Noah, my youngest, he's 11, and he is obsessed with everything World War II right now. So, like, this just, like, kind of, he wanted to know, he had questions too. So, yeah, it was good.
I mean, my son, he had issues like this, and my son wasn't as extreme with, like, saying something like, hey, we're going to go get a sandwich. I didn't have to spell something like that out for him.
Literal.
But my son, he had this thing even when he was little. If he had 10 cars, most kids would sit here and ride them around on furniture. Not him. He would perfectly line them up, place them in a certain pattern, and that was how he played. Or action figures, they had to be positioned a certain way. And if other kids, like he had some cousins and stuff that would come over, and of course they would come over and get toys, and be like superheroes, and just bash them together, fighting and flying around, and he would lose his mind. Lane would literally freak out because he's like, they're not playing with them right, and they're not, and like they're going to break them, and they're going to do that, and I had to actually stop him. And I remember this one time I had to stop and sit him down because he was crying, he was losing his mind because his cousins were playing with his toys, and not because he didn't want them playing, because it was how they were playing with them. And I said, Lane, it's okay. Look, if they break them, I'll replace them. This is how kids play with them, just because they're not playing with them the way that
everybody does it different.
Everybody does it different. I was like, I get it. You're very gentle with your toys, and you don't play with them like that, but that's not how most kids play with toys, I said it's fine. So I had to actually sit down and really explain it to him, even when he was small. And even like as a teenager, before he moved back to his mom's after he graduated, he lived here. You go in his room, everything had its place.
And that's Lawson right now.
Everything had its
His
place.
room is immaculate.
Yeah.
I have the whole thing with autism too is like every case is different. So Justice, his intellect is insane, but his area is chaos. There's no I wish he had the neatness organizational tick.
Well,
he doesn't.
And that was the thing. And that was Lane when he was 4. That was Lane when he was 18. Everything had its place and it was neat. It had to be perfect. I would mess with him. I would. Being that guy, I would come in and I would like move something, not a lot, but just just to see if he noticed.
Nothing to do with this particular situation, but like it just you saying mess with him. I haven't told anybody this. I just told Heather yesterday. Lawson always has his iPad, and he's watching for some reason because he hates spiders. Watching a spider video, and he's eating dinner. And I had a metal straw in my hand, and I got up behind him and just barely hit behind his ear, right on his hair. This kid jump screamed and ran from the table, and I'm dying laughing because he thought a spider was on him. And Heather didn't even know. She's like, will you just sit down and eat? I'm like, so yesterday, as we're at SeaWorld in Orlando, I go, do you know why he did that? She goes, no. And I'm like, this is what I did. She's like, you're a dick. And I was like, hey, the opportunity was there. I had to take it. So later, she goes, did he get you? And he goes, yeah. I almost pooped.
Well, I would go in his room, and I wouldn't. I wouldn't. No, what I was still saying, I would go in and move something, and not a lot. Like I would move a book out a little bit, or I'd have a figure there. I would turn it just a little bit, and I would leave and come back later just to see if he noticed. And I'd come back in, turn back,
But he'd never say anything.
He'd never say anything.
That's great. He wouldn't be like, stop it. Are you serious? Like Debbie Lawson would be like, really? That he would literally just, really? At 9, I'd just get, really? Yeah. Sorry.
No, even at 18, he wouldn't say anything. He would just, I just come back in and it would be moved.
Yeah, good for him.
So the moral of this story is you get more than just a movie with us. You get some personal elements too. We all have some interesting approaches at how Benedict played this character, and autism is a very, very fickle and interesting disease.
And the thing is, the homosexual stuff, back in that time period, that was not allowed.
No.
Yeah, nah.
No.
I mean, let's be honest, it really wasn't even allowed up until we were kind of born.
Yeah.
I mean, we are the lifetime of, it starting to become accepted.
Well, and, they castrated a lot of those people. And, I mean,
it's just real...
stuff.
But they explore that in this too.
Yeah. With the chemical castration.
But as a whole, though, I really enjoyed the movie because, they bring everybody in to try to figure this out, and they're all running their own stuff. But most of them, everybody's working together except for Alan. Alan had a plan, and he came up with the machine, which I can't remember what he called it.
Christopher,
that's right.
Because of his childhood friend.
Yes. And the minute that they got behind him, that was pretty cool. For me, that was pretty cool because everyone was ready to get rid of him.
What was cool was how he made that happen. He went to Winston Churchill. He went behind his superior's back.
Yeah.
And made that happen.
Yeah. But even how his peers, when they were ready to get rid of him, they were like, "No, we need him."
Yeah, by the end,
they were like, "No, he's onto something."
He had earned their respect.
Yeah, and for someone like Alan Turing and how his brain works, he had to work hard to do that.
We're getting kind of ahead here and giving plot points that are major, but there's so much more that leads up to this. Part of Alan's the character of Alan's superpower fuel was crossword puzzles. That's what brought this whole thing to fruition.
I watched this 2 months ago when we were going to do it before.
Yeah,
so
that was the last time I watched
forgotten
it.
A few
And
things,
so these games, these like crossword puzzles, they intrigued him, and if it was an unsolvable problem, Alan had to try and make it work, and he was a mathematician and one of the best in the world, in fact. And so when I say that autistic people don't recognize authority, a great example of that was when he's in the room with what's his name, the superior officer.
I can't remember his
guy
name
from
right
Game
now.
of Thrones.
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
Well, when he's in the room with him, this guy's a superior, and he's just talking so much shit right back to him, all the way down to when he explains to him why he can solve this unsolvable problem of the Enigma machine.
He talks down to people.
Yeah.
He doesn't realize it, though. He's trying to explain, look, I can do this. You can't. And it's not that because there's no superiority there, like you said. I can do it and you can't. Let me do this.
I'm just saying he doesn't recognize authority.
Right, but I'm just saying, the way he talks to people is like, look, you may not be able to do this, but I can. And the way he says it comes off like, I'm better than you.
And then, from there, when he gets put in this position with one other individual, the way they go about finding a team to help them crack this Enigma code is they put out an unsolvable crossword puzzle nationally, and they basically get 5 candidates out of this. One of them is a woman, which is also unheard of at this time, who's played by Keira Knightley from Star Wars.
There it was.
No.
Padme stunt double.
Dude, she is gorgeous.
She is from
Star Wars.
No.
Star Wars.
No.
Star Wars.
No.
Star Wars. Then after Star Wars, she did Pirates of the Caribbean.
After Star Wars, she did this thing that involved booty. Pirate booty. Because she's got a great... Anyways, Keira Knightley, you're beautiful. When she came into this, though, I think that it was appropriate for the timing of how this worked. She committed to it, was happy to have solved the problem, and then she didn't show up when the rest of the team showed up. So Alan Tudyk went to... I'm saying that as turning or turning? Turning. He went to her house to talk to her about the job, and she explained... my parents don't feel this is appropriate for a woman of my age who is single to do, so I will not be going with you. And so he essentially says, okay, well, what if you're helping keep everything clean and tidy on the premises where we're working? And he makes it so that she's able to be present on the site, makes a whole woman's team, if you will, just dedicated to cleaning up where they're working. And then secretly is going to her place at night and showing her these problems from the Enigma machine, hoping... just wanting her input, her feedback, everything, and she ends up helping crack a lot of whatever they're trying to get to at the time. But it unfolds from there more.
Yeah.
I
mean, there's so much you can go into from there because of the machine and how it works and everything else. I mean, it's one of those movies, like, I kind of feel like everyone should see this to understand what actually had to happen. Because if this didn't happen... we might not even be sitting here.
No,
you if this hadn't happened, you may not have this device and you carry around every day.
Well, yeah. This is the smallest part of that, because what he's saying is that the Nazis might have won.
I mean, the Nazis, every life as we know right now would be nothing even close to it.
But even that aside,
except for we eat food and we go to the bathroom.
Even that aside, had we still defeated the Nazis and he had not built his machine, we may not have the personal computer. We may not have cell phones.
Yeah, before they were called computers, they were called turning machines, which I didn't know until I watched this movie. So
I didn't know that. I forgot. But yeah, you're right.
And going back to Keira Knightley, so there comes a point that happens where she's trying to explain to him that his team doesn't respect him. They don't back him. They don't take him seriously. That's why he's always alone. And so... he also doesn't want to lose her friendship. And this is when you start piecing it together that he is not a straight man, or at least for me. He actually proposes to her in an effort to keep her there and keep her as an honest woman, and marries her, they get engaged, right?
Yeah, I think it just shows how much he cares for her.
Right,
He
as a person or friend.
by her.
Right. But once that happens, though, I feel like everything then is driven in a more positive direction to a certain extent, where that she starts helping him translate these people working with him and how to break through to them and how to gain their trust and their respect, which leads up to that moment where they almost dismiss him and the team backs him and says, we're all leaving if he's leaving. So,
which was, it does show you don't have to get along with who you work with. But if you can just find a little bit of respect on what they're doing, it can go a long way to have a greater good of any kind of process that you're in. I think that we live in a time now where it's like, I don't like that guy, so I don't even care what he's doing. I don't want to be around him. I don't want to, like, we all work with people that we can't stand. But sometimes you just got to suck it up and get the job done.
That's fair.
You guys have, oh, geez. Wow. I would have just pointed to James, but whatever.
Well, I did.
And then I was able to sway him. See how that works?
I guess what happens on tour stays on tour.
It's because he sleeps above me in the bunk.
So for me though, I'm in a fortunate situation with not these idiots, but in my workplace, I have a great team and a great group of people. So I can deal with all of them. I can stand all of them. They're good people. Yeah. Sappy, I know.
So, I something just out of curiosity. Because you guys are so sci-fi, nerd, weird. Some movies make no sense. Weird, loving guys. Do you guys enjoy these kind of movies also?
Yes.
Some of them, they're hit and miss, but yeah. I watched this one when it first came out, and I watched it because as a computer science major, that's what I have a degree in, and as soon as I realized what this film was about, I was like, I have to see this, But I watch it. I mean, there's a lot of films like this that I like, so I'm not just a science fiction or horror film.
I get nervous with these movies because I feel like they're going to drag.
Some of them do,
and this one to me did not, in a weird way. Like, it had its chances, like just as I was about to be like, there it is, and so I thought that the pacing. I thought was pretty good.
The pacing isn't bad. It's not horrible.
I thought it was pretty
I think
good.
the length of the movie is quality.
Yeah.
That's the length of the movie. Short, sweet, to the point.
It was
just about 2 hours.
It was 115 minutes. Like it was perfect.
But yeah, when this one came out, and
it was distributed by the Weinstein Company.
I think it was around the same time we had Everything All at Once came out. I believe the Stephen Hawking movie. Did you ever see that one? That one's really good. Mm. If you like this, you'll like it.
This movie really. So yes, primarily I'm going to be your sci-fi horror guy. Those are my definite go-tos. But I just want to see quality film in general. It doesn't have to be a genre for me. As long as it's a good movie, has a story, delivers, has quality acting, I'm good. I'll cross the board with that.
I mean, the quality acting is even questionable with some of the stuff I watch. So.
I mean, both of us, sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
wait. You just said that like,
it's debatable.
No, it's not. It is not debatable. It is fact. It is fucking fact. Like, there's no debate necessary.
Well, I mean, but I like films that have great actors in it too. I go both ways.
You got it. Go ahead.
That's your job.
Handed it to him.
We don't have assigned jobs
This
here.
is bullshit.
There's no assigned jobs here.
James says it. Guy's coming. JP does it. What? What do you want?
And after.
You know this is Swedish fish flavored.
After I got him so hard on the last episode, and
I can't leave that one alone. Jesus Christ. You guys are really fucking with me now. Come on. I'm trying to be a responsible, not perverted adult, and you make it impossible. When you get him hard is on your own time and away from me. Okay? Under the bunk, over the bunk, in the bunk, whatever. You guys do your thing.
There's a hole.
I bet there is.
Never mind.
Probably got swing stirrups.
Okay, Gary Oldman.
Fullman.
The thing is, for me, is if you can watch something and learn something from it, and it's not boring, I think that's pretty cool. Because I do think, I find, no offense to my dad watches a lot of, my dad will be watching, stuff on whatever, and I'm like, God, I know you're learning something here, but this is so goddamn boring. How are you not falling asleep? There was a thing I watched years ago on Netflix, and I wish I could find it again because I actually wouldn't mind watching it. But it was about a boat. Like they wanted to prove you could go through Canada, and there was a passage, and first time in 30 years it just iced over right when they got there, and and they couldn't find the boat, and they've been searching for it until now, and they finally found it, and it did shift in the water, quite a distance, but they found it.
You don't know what you're talking about, though.
But I don't remember what the thing was called, and that's what kills me, is because I want to watch it again, and I can't find it. But it was so interesting that I actually thought, my wife would actually find this interesting. Like, the kid might find this interesting.
Netflix, boat, Frozen Passage. If you guys know what he's talking about.
Yeah, someone.
Put it in the comments. Let's hear it.
But that's why I like this kind of stuff, because it's like, this is real. People have done this. We need stuff like this so we can learn. So we can move forward in progression to understand where all of our stuff came from. And what you said is right, JP. Like, we don't realize how lucky we are that we even have this. And what it does. And we don't use it to its full capability. How many people go, how do you get there? Type it in and hit go. If you pay $80 a month for a phone that you don't even know how it works.
If you search it, I promise you,
you'll get there.
It'll come up. It will come right up.
It drives me nuts. Like, you can find anything. Lost the last question. I'm like, get your iPad, Google it. I don't know.
I mean, it's not like you have to do what we did. You don't have to go find the encyclopedias.
I did. Oh God, yeah.
Dude, and sourcing that shit was, anyways.
Yeah, kids will never have to do what we had to do.
No.
I will admit I stole one paper once offline. I got a
the
140
character. They've changed what I used to do. So they
You're like, wait a second.
That did make me think about it. So the plagiarism was always the big, hey, don't do that, it's wrong, it's bad, it's just that. So I would always just reword it. Same thing being said.
Use the words I would use.
But now there's a term that they say you can't do that either.
They have software now that can search through your paper to see if it was actually plagiarized or taken from other sources.
But sorry, what I was going to say before that was I don't remember at the end when they talk about how things panned out over years to come, like when they're closing the credits, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Joanne Clark, the actress that or Keira Knightley played the character of Joanne Clark. Do we know, was she ever properly credited as a woman in science? Like, did she get her accreditations like Alan?
I do not have an answer for that.
I'm just curious because that was like,
give me a second.
In addition to the homosexuality aspect being taboo, so were women being in this kind of field. So I hope that she was given her due diligence as well.
Yeah, because a lot of what she came up with was the logic behind how he designed what he was designing.
It says here, she was born in 1917, died in 1996, was an English cryptanalyst and numeralist who worked as a code breaker at the Bletchley Park during the Second World War. Although she did not personally seek the spotlight, her role in the Enigma project that decrypted the German secret communications earned her awards and citations, such as the appointment of the Member of Order of the British Empire.
Awesome.
In 1946.
That's good.
So she got it. She just didn't care.
Yeah.
Which, good for her. I mean, neither did Alan Turing. He was just being himself. That's just what he loved to do. The guy was a walking calculator.
Yeah.
It's just what his brain told him to do. So, but yeah, she did marry a guy named John Murray in 1952. He died in 86. It does have Alan Turing listed as a partner, engaged in 1941, but did not marry.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and move along in this movie.
Yeah.
So he gets his machine to work. What'd you guys think about once they start breaking codes and the weight that these guys had to carry with deciding what they told and what they didn't tell in order.
Just look at the one character, the one kid, his brother. Like he had to literally watch his brother die essentially in his eyes, and he's like pleading with them, and they're like, "There's so many more ripples that will happen if we allow that to happen, if we stop this."
And basically, what they say is what they're alluding to is we can't crack every code and go stop every attack because then they'll know we're breaking their code. So they have to pick which targets they're going to save and which ones they're going to let.
Because they couldn't let them know that they figured it out.
Yeah, so they had to pick and choose, and it becomes they have to make a decision. Oh, well, do we allow them to bomb 10,000 civilians, or do we allow them to bomb 10,000 soldiers that are getting ready to attack them? So it becomes
I mean, you are playing God at that point. And that might have been. Personally, I think their job should have been decipher the code, and then that job should have been moved on to higher ups.
Yeah,
because that's too much weight for a civilian who's they're mathematicians. They're not war strategists. They're nothing of that. They figured it out. And I mean, here's the thing: the way that machine worked, I mean, it's crazy he was able to put that together.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's just it's like my brain does not understand how he did that. And that just shows how smart we have people walking this planet that are just things are unlocked in their brain that most of us will never unlock. Because I have a feeling even if they tried to explain to you how they put that together, you'd be like, what? So, yeah, I found it really interesting. And I'm glad you brought her up because I didn't think about that. Like, she was just treated as a woman at that point, and that wasn't really fair.
I mean, as a
Keira Knightley demands respect and should be treated like a woman.
And I guess the weird thing for me is, as a computer science, someone has a computer science degree, watching the film, I understand how he built it. Now, would I ever be able to sit here, especially back then, and go, okay,
That's what I'm saying.
This is how this is going to work. I would never came up with that. But now, knowing how it works, I understand how it works. It's actually a pretty simple idea.
But to put it together,
especially with what he had.
I watch you run around trying to connect audio cords to get the right connections. I can't imagine that thing.
Yeah, but but in my mind,
you're making him hard.
I do that. In my mind, I'm not thinking about how he's back there moving cords for his machine. I'm thinking about how I would program that in code to make it work on a computer today. And essentially, I mean, it's not a very hard program. You know, it's basically if you know this letter, this letter, this letter, and this letter, and then you basically would just run a program to make it figure out what the words are.
Well, kind of to the point of what he was saying earlier, though, like, I wouldn't, I'm not going to lie, I wouldn't be mad if we didn't have these in our hand.
I would love it.
Because in all reality,
let's go back to flip phones.
Well, in all reality, though, like,
hell yeah.
I retain information based off what I see, based on what I interact with, and when I used to have to look in those encyclopedias, do the research myself, those are the things that I remember still. The stuff that's the quick, easy, where I just look it up and it's automatically right in front of me, I don't retain that. I read it at that moment, but it doesn't stay with me because I didn't, like, go out on a limb trying to remember to find it, figure it out. And I think that is part of what's dumbing down our society. And I'm going to say get off my lawn and shut up.
I'm going to come over and just stand in your lawn.
You can do that. As long as you don't speed by. I don't care about the lawn thing. It's the people who are speeding down my street that I scream at. So one of my neighbors said, just stand outside with a hairdryer. Like it's a speed gun. So I actually got freaked out recently, though, because that was one of the reasons why that happened, because I found out that 4 or 5 years before we moved into our house, across the street and over a couple houses, there was a little boy who was around 10, Noah's 11 right now, who was playing outside, and he got hit by a car speeding down the street and died. And so that stuff, like, now I'm, like, so protective of my kids that I'm like, if they're speeding,
Ryan's out there. They're like, what's that?
He's going to get shot. He's going out there with a dryer now, and he's going to get shot thinking somebody's going to think he's pointing a gun
Not
at
a
him.
dryer, a hair dryer.
No.
If I'm carrying a dryer, it's going to look really hard.
Not to make it weird, but this is like, but to back up what he's saying, he is right. He is very protective, because when we went to the hockey game with Matt, I was like, shit, I hope I locked my car. My 380's in the glove box. He's like, go back around. Like, he wanted to make sure my car was locked. It's snowing like all hell. No one's going to go near my car. But he was like, go back, make sure it's locked.
Yeah, but in Cleveland, though, right now, with everything happening, I know you don't have the Kias or the Hyundais, but that people are ruthless right now.
I was like, yeah, my 380's in the
Still
glove
a bunch
box.
of Kias and Honda.
Two of my employees had it stolen out of our parking lot at work, and now we're like, these people are relentless.
My mom sent me a video the other day of a guy that got carjacked. There's video, like surveillance video of it, and he got carjacked by two guys, pulled him out of his car, and it was a WRX, just like mine, same year. The guys get in, and you see them rustling around inside for a second, then they get out and take off running. They couldn't drive the car because it was a manual.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah. That's funny. I couldn't either. Hell, I'm not gonna lie. I learned how to drive manual when I was 18 for all of 1 week. Taught myself because the person I was working for threw the keys at me and said, "Go learn." And I did that one time. I learned, and then I ended up quitting a couple days later. So I haven't had to do it since. I don't think I could for the life of me now.
So the ending of this film.
It was sad. To say the least, that and for somebody to go unrecognized, to have to squander who they are, to be chemically castrated.
Did they keep that going or not? That's what I don't feel like.
Well, he committed suicide a year after
that's
that.
What I thought. Okay.
But I mean, it had to be hard. I mean, this guy created this essentially one of the first computers, and then as soon as the war was done, they basically disassembled everything and said it's ours. It's top secret. It can never be mentioned. You can never talk about this. It never existed. Nobody can know it even existed. So they had to go back to their normal lives knowing they built this machine, and yet they can't even talk about it.
Can't even put it on a resume.
Yeah. And then Alan, he goes on, and obviously he is homosexual, and he gets accused of, what was it he got accused of?
He hired a male prostitute.
That's right, yeah. That's what it was,
Somebody witnessed him doing it, and the police
took
action. And there's an underlying thing happening throughout the story as you're going. So you start off in the interrogation room where he's been arrested for that crime, and he has to explain his story to an officer who's the one who started this, and then the officer has regrets for even doing it.
Well, the officer, I believe, thought, best I remember, because it's been like a month since I've watched it, because we were going to record this one like a month ago. He had been tracking him and trying to catch him throughout the whole movie because he thought he was a communist or something. Wasn't that why he was? Because he thought he was given.
He thought that originally.
Yeah, he thought he was a communist, but then Alan was telling him the story in the interrogation room.
And the other thing is that when the officer tried to pull his military record, it was empty. There was nothing in the file, but he had military service, and he was sure of it, so he didn't understand why. And
Did you look up anything about Christopher?
I did, and Christopher's name was not actually Christopher. Well, I mean, you're talking about the person or the computer?
The person.
Okay, I did not look that up.
So his name was Christopher Morecambe. He was the significant friend of, he lived to be 19.
He died of tuberculosis.
Contracted after drinking infected cow's milk.
Yeah, I knew that he was a real person. The machine wasn't actually named Christopher, though. They did that for the film. The machine's name was, and I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but it's Bombay, Bombe, maybe. But it means for victory, is what it means. So.
I found it interesting, though. The whole thing was just super. I've watched a lot on World War II. I mean, to the point where it's like, what else can you really watch and learn? At some point, we're just recycling the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Personally, I would love to go to Auschwitz, just see what's left. Not for any grossness, not for any, but just like this is like this was a terrible time in humanity.
Yeah.
People died for no reason. The people who did nothing wrong died, lost family members, tortured. Even those who knew it was wrong had to do it, or they would die. It was unreal. So to see something like this come out, that was new.
Yeah.
To the story, I thought it was pretty cool.
And looking at what happened with Alan Turing, with him finding out that he was homosexual and them taking him to court, chemically castrating him, and putting him to the position that he committed suicide a year after all this started, or it was a year or two after they chemically castrated him. And this really wasn't that long ago. Mm-mm. When you really think about it, and when you look at
we're looking at 80 years ago.
Yeah, you look at where we are today, and not to get into that aspect of things. We have people now that are living very free as trans, homosexual, lesbian, and that whole community, when this guy who created the first computer was chemically castrated just for being homosexual. Did not do anything wrong, to my knowledge. That everything I've ever seen, he did not actually do anything wrong.
He chose the chemical castration over going into jail because then he couldn't do his work.
Yeah. So that's how much things have changed and progressed, and this wasn't this long ago.
I feel like, and yes, things have obviously changed for the better, but I do think like the modern day community needs to really understand more of their history. I think the modern day community doesn't really grasp a lot of, and I don't mean the old schoolers, I mean like the younger ones. They don't grasp the history and the fight that had to come up, like the whole AIDS pandemic.
That was a rough time.
It was a really rough time.
I've watched some things.
A lot of
recently
mislabeled situations, a lot of struggles, a lot of protesting, a lot of fighting, a lot of death. There's a lot that went down, and that was just back around the corner. That was just down another street as far as we're concerned in our lives. So the younger people coming up who are just starting to come out and be free, like, just understand that those freedoms were earned with blood, sweat, and tears from that community.
Mm-hmm.
So
at 100%.
Well,
so some fun facts about this.
Yeah.
There's fun.
Random facts.
Yes.
I already gave the one about Christopher, the computer's name actually not being Christopher. Alan had wrote some articles and books or stories about how he or ideas of where he was trying to take his work to, about how you could keep someone's mind alive, and he was obsessed with it, of like keeping their mind alive inside a computer, and how he thought it was possible, and how he wrote papers on this. So his wheels were turning on this back in the 40s, 50s, right before he died. A lot of the information that has been released about Alan Turing and his machine, most of those information actually came from Ian Fleming's diaries, the guy who wrote the James Bond novels, because he worked for MI6, and so he had diaries on Alan, and a lot of the information we know about Alan today actually came from Ian Fleming's diaries.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And this was a rumor. This has been a rumor for years, and I had actually heard this one, but nothing has ever been confirmed. But the bitten apple for Apple, the Apple logo, is actually rumored to be a reference to Turing's death. It was them paying homage to Alan Turing.
Huh. How does it pay to his
I
death?
can't remember.
Did he poison an apple and take a bite out of it or something? Like,
I'm not sure.
I'm just curious.
Disney, man.
I'm not sure, but that was
if he committed suicide,
that was a rumor that has been kind of went around for, I know, a number of years.
I mean, Apple's stolen everything from everyone, so whatever.
So budget was $14 million. What do you think the box office did?
I actually have this one.
Solid cast.
This movie actually, I will say, this movie actually had a low budget, and this movie did well for what it was.
Whatever you think it was, knowing you.
85 mil.
You're not far off domestic.
Okay, well, there you go. That's your guess. What is it?
Worldwide.
233.
Oh, worldwide?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going domestic. Sorry.
233.6.
Okay, that tracks.
It crushed really well.
It did 136 million international.
But what do you guys think Rotten Tomatoes was at for this?
I actually think I remember looking at this one.
I didn't look at this, but if I had to guess, I think I think critics probably rated this pretty high.
90.
Yeah, I was going to say in the mid 80s, and I would say critics or the audience
they were the
score
same.
Was probably going to be
it was like
91
or 90. Yeah.
So, and that makes me happy because it's a period piece, and the more if you liked it, you're going to watch it more. Tell people to watch it, and I think people need to see this movie.
No, I think a lot of people need to watch this film. I watched this film when it first came out. I loved this film when it first came out. Now, for me, this isn't a very rewatchable movie.
It's a once every couple years,
exactly.
If that, because otheridse it's just the same thing. You almost need to forget some things, and then it's nice to rewatch.
When I rewatched it this time, it didn't feel like a new movie, but I appreciated it because I had not watched it since 2014.
Same.
So it wasn't like a painful watch, but as I watched it, I was like, I get why I didn't watch this movie again, was because it feels like one of these movies that is fantastic the first time, and then after that it's like maybe once every 10 years.
I agree. 100% with that. I agree 100% with that. Well, with scores,
Go to
Sure.
scores.
I'm going to give it a 4.5.
It was your movie. You're supposed to go last, you dingleberry.
I'm going first.
All right.
So you're going to do a
I'll
4.5.
give it a 4.5679.
8675309.
Speed dial.
3.2 for me.
3.2.
That seems low.
You know, he's not far off from where I was going to be, honestly. I was going to go with the 3.4 out of 5. Mainly because it is great the first time. But after that, I suggest everybody watch it. And then if you watch it a second time, you're going to probably feel where I'm at on it.
There's an educational aspect. There is the quality of acting is solid. I do appreciate all that. I kind of would have liked to see, given that it was during World War II, a little more of the war aspect.
I would have liked to have seen those ships get blown up.
Yeah, that's something that happened in that regard.
It would have been nice. You're right. It would have been nice to see something so you know what they're really trying to stop.
Well, and
like we know, but like visually, it helps.
Once you said what the budget was, though, that tracks. Though I understand why that wasn't there. So I imagine most of that budget was salaries for the actors. So, yeah, cool.
Where are they finding us?
Why don't you tell them?
Because I can't remember all that shit.
He doesn't know our email.
It's like me going to Starbucks. Too many words. Can't remember it all. I have to have her text me the thing.
3cinenerds@gmail.com is our email. Feel free to email us any questions, suggestions, any fun like that. Wherever your viewing pleasure takes you, you can find a link to it through our link tree, which is on our Facebook page. And also on that link tree, we also have a merch store in there for CineNerds. So please check it out. And I'll let JP talk about the sharing caring fund.
And if you have a shirt or a hoodie or a sticker, we want to see them.
Yeah, take a photo and tag us in it.
We'll share you on the podcast.
Yeah. Go give us a like, share, comment, invite your friends, subscribe. Review. That's a big one with me right now. I want everybody to go give us a review.
Hard on for it, per se. Yes.
That wasn't me this time. Not me this time. I want you to remember this. Go give us a review. If you're watching us on YouTube, please go to Spotify, write us a review. Spotify or Apple Podcasts, write us a review. I'd love to read your reviews. I read one in our last episode, but we are recording 3 episodes in the same day today, and I don't have any more to read right now. So write a review, and I would love to read it on the show. And till next time.
See ya.
CineNerds out.
Later.